to the Money Making Mamas Show. And do we have a very special treat for you today? So the Money Making Mamas Show is all about women who want to transition from the working world or who want to start their business. And today I am joined by Pamela Goodwin, Pam Goodwin. And I've known Pam for about 10 years, I think. She is awesome. She's an author, national speaker, commercial real estate broker, developer. So Pam, welcome to the Money Makin Mamas Show. Thanks so much for taking the time out to come. You are our first in-person guest. So thank you.
I am honored to be here and your first guest. I know we live close by, just up the road.
I know, and we don't even see each other that much except on social now, right? Because you're busy. Well, why don't you tell the audience, because we're talking about transitions today, and you have done so much. So we're going to go back in time, and then you can bring the audience to kind of where you're at today, because you've just done a ton of things. So go ahead and tell the audience how you transition, because you're just not a commercial real estate developer, broker. I mean, you coach, you have your show, you have so many things, but that didn't happen overnight. So give us some background about how that all transitioned for you.
I'm Pam Goodwin with Goodwin Commercial. We're based here in Dallas, Texas, and I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Always competitive. I even tried out brings me back, like say, going back in time. I tried out for the boys' baseball team at St. Mary's Catholic Grade School in Bellevue, Nebraska, and made the team. And I think that was launching my career. If I can make the boys' baseball team, I can do commercial real estate.
And that actually is a really good accomplishment, given we're not going to give away ages or anything, but it's not in current time, right?
Right. I know, but my dad did a little bit of real estate, and he was an entrepreneur, so was my grandfather. And so I always had, that entrepreneurial spirit. Since I was a little girl, I was the one that always loved making money. And so I started having the lemonade or Kool-Aid stand back then and selling that on, finding the right location, and selling Kool-Aid. And then I've always just worked really, really hard. I have a degree in interior design from the University of Nebraska, big Cornhusker fan. I only did design for 1 year. I wanted to do hotel design, which I did get a job offer at JW Marriott in Bethesda, turned that down, stayed in Omaha. So the first part of my career was always large shopping center development, project management, design, construction, and then went on the tenant side. So I wanted to learn landlord side, tenant side, and worked for Brinker International, developing more than 50, probably more than that, 50 Chili's from the ground up. So they paid me to learn how to develop property.
Right. And you would actually find the location for the Chili's and let them know this is a good spot or not a good spot. You were the one that really helped Chili's, like say this is the right location and go from there.
It was the real estate manager for Brinker who found the location, and then the development team took over as far as we had to hire the architect, hire the civil, go meet with the city, meet with the landlord, and do all the 80 pages of due diligence on one project. So I can actually say I am an expert at due diligence, and I do due diligence with everything in my life. It's like sometimes like finding the right hotel or travel, we had to find the red flag issues on those deals because I had utilities 6 lanes under the road on the other side of the street. And so it gave me a wealth of knowledge. But as, this show, as far as, making money, I was tired of making other people money.
And so is that what propelled you to want to transition out of corporate? Because we talk about, the paycheck dependency, working with other people or working for people rather than working for yourself. So is that kind of what happened, or kind of tell the story about how you transitioned?
I'm sure a lot of your viewers can relate, but the harder you worked in your corporate job, the more work they gave you, and maybe a small raise. But I always say, if I got to a job where on Friday I was already dreading Monday to go back to work, I was in the wrong position. And that kind of happened every 2 to 3 years with a position for me. I either outgrew it, but once I knew I was not waking up on loving Mondays, it was time to make a change. And I put together a business plan of other landlords that were developing Chili's to find out if they would take me under their wing to find the right mentor, to do that. And I met with several of them and found one who helped me start Goodwin Commercial. And we just celebrated 20 years in business.
Yay, congratulations. That's awesome. Well, I kind of had not a similar in commercial transition because I'd always been in corporate, right? I'd always been in corporate, and I worked for nonprofits and government agencies, and you never really get paid your worth anyway. But same thing, I would get promoted, just have more work, get like a 2% raise, but then be dependent always on my supervisor or the company culture of how you would progress. I didn't feel like I had control. And I'm like you, if I am not passionate about what I'm doing, I can't do it. I can, but I don't show up like I want to, right? And so real estate was that one. I didn't know I had an entrepreneurial, I didn't know what that was called. I just knew I didn't like working for other people. I don't like being told what to do, I think, too. And so I did a similar thing where I had a mentor, because I think when you are shifting or you're transitioning, because, you can watch, and 20 years ago, YouTube wasn't was the internet the way it is now, where you can go in there and really do all this research. And so I had a mentor too that kind of helped me propel and transition so that I could, leave the employment kind of thing. So I don't know. What do you think is in us that makes us want to do that? Because not everybody will do that. They'll want to. They'll be miserable in their jobs. But what do you think it is? What's that thing that people have, that one thing? We talk about the one thing.
Well, as you mentioned, you have risk, fear. I mean, it was a 6-figure income, all the free food I wanted to eat, health benefits, and, thinking about giving that up. But I knew that I never wanted to have a regret. Mm-hmm. And, as far as wanting to make, additional money. But, just finding the right person, to collaborate with. It took me later in life, because as women, we always think we have to do it all ourselves. Yes. And I learned just recently in the last few years about collaborating and collaborating with the right person. And so the person that, after showing my business plan, I had one person that was in his mid-70s at the time, and that took me under his wing. And he was gracious enough to pay close to my salary of what I was making, because he said you can't do real estate and be creative if you're always worried about money.
Well, you know what? Same thing. I had the same thing, because the mentor I had actually created I wanted her to hire me because I couldn't just okay, I needed some money, right? You can't just quit your job and go into real estate, because it just doesn't work that way. And she didn't want to pay me. And so, but I really wanted to learn from her. I knew she was the person I wanted to learn from. And so I literally created a job for myself. I go, you don't have to pay me much, right? And so, I did a business plan and I thought it out, what I needed, what value I could bring to her. So, and when you brought up the collaboration, so what did I say to you when I emailed you about being on the show? I was like, hey, I want to collaborate with you. And you said, well, what is that? And I was like, I want you on our show.
Collaboration means, different things to different people.
Yeah, where you can really, because I've known you and followed you, very impressed with your career and oh, look at that. And we've talked about, we know some of the same people. We don't do the same type of business, but it's funny how in real estate investing as a whole, there's always the same kind of players. You know what I mean? So, and the very successful ones are the ones who take action. So you took action by writing a business plan. What is it though? Can you break it down? What compelled you to do that? Did you know how to write a business plan? I mean, did you just say, I'm going to write a business plan? Did you know that from your education? How did you know to take that step? I guess what I want to know is, what was it that drove you, not just from making money with other people, but that said, I'm going to do this?
Somehow I just always learned, it's probably from my design background, but I've always been kind of a show and tell person. And so even when I went in for job interviews, I think it got me every job, but a lot of people don't do this. But if I showed them my work, or I showed them an Excel spreadsheet that I could create, so I figured if I could show them the contacts that I had in the business at the time, what type of money we could do, just a kind of a game plan, just like you would as a coach. So it was like show and tell that really helped me figure out that business plan to take action. And then I just came up with a list of, I always believe in, like you said, working for the top people, the top company. So even when I wanted to do hotel design, J.W. Marriott was the top. When I wanted to do shopping center development, I reached out to the number one company, and they were based in San Diego, and they hired me. Then I wanted to go work because I thought I wanted to own a restaurant. I have no idea where I came up with that crazy idea. So I researched top restaurant companies in the world, and at the time it was Brinker. And I found out very quickly I didn't want to own the restaurant. I wanted to own the real estate.
Right.
So I did that. But if you're looking like, you want to either work for a real estate company, you want to have the best popcorn shop, the best fitness place, go research the people. Now it's a lot easier.
It is so much easier. Because I see in a lot of Facebook groups for women, and whether they're stay at home or they're trying to figure out how to pay their bills, they're always looking for a side hustle. And the question will be, what side hustle should I do? Because they have no idea. So when I see those posts, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, what do people need? Because you can have a side hustle, but it could just be busy work, and it doesn't make you any money. So when you think about a side hustle, what would be your advice to someone who's listening and saying, I need more money, or I want to work for myself? What would you say to them? What should they think about or do?
You have to sell something. You have to sell. A lot of people are creating affiliate marketing, if you want to do that. I mean, I've researched that, and all these people claiming you're making millions at it. And then bottom line, it's a lot,
Well, how about the one that, those ads you see that goes, go on Canva, make a PDF and sell it and make millions and millions. And you know what? We have PDFs. You probably do too.
Right.
You do not make millions and millions with a PDF from Canva.
So there's, a lot of different ways. You just have to really dig in, find out, really what your passion is.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that.
I think that word's kind of overused, passion. It's like, what would you work for? What would you do for free? But it's kind of like people say, why are people coming up to you? What are they asking you to do? I was just, with a friend, and she's like an amazing organizer. And she didn't know the value in that and charging an hourly. I go, these people want you. You need to charge like a monthly retainer fee. If you can do anything, get out of that hourly rate and come up with, if you love to organize stuff, if you love to cook. I mean, and then post it on social media for the billions of people, in the world, or what is it, million, billions?
Billions,
people,
a lot.
On the world for all that free marketing.
Well, I'm a Shark Tank fan. And there was the lady that she did the soda pop, and she sold it for like, I don't know, $1 billion. And simply because she likes soda, but she wanted something more healthier. But I think for me, same thing. I always had, because I think I watched too many HGTV. So I always wanted to flip houses, and I thought that's what I was going to do. And then when I found out what's really involved with flipping houses, like, I've done it, but I don't like it. So it's not my favorite thing to do. But I agree. You have to find something that you're passionate, but that makes you get out of bed, that you're excited. Because when you dread getting out of bed on a Monday morning to have to drive to the office or go sit at your desk or whatever, that's not really good. I mean, I think there's studies that show that you can't really be that happy if you're doing all of that.
And I think people get overwhelmed. They kind of think, oh my God, I got to do all this stuff. But it's like trying to lose weight, trying to lose 1 ounce at a time or 1 pound at a time. Start small.
Or like, I think going back to the fear, because I have two things. One, Kelsey and I did a podcast about this last year about climbing to the top, and it's lonely at the top. So I want to ask you, so when you decided to switch gears, did you have support for that? Did you, because we talk about, when you go out on an entrepreneurial limb, is your family supportive of it? Because you need emotional support. I mean, there is finance, but how was that for you?
Right. So married at the time, and we relied on both incomes at the time, which is a lot. But, my husband also had the corporate, so had the health and had 2 small children at home. And I, did not want that mom guilt of leaving them, not being able to go to one of their school events. So that's what, having your own company and having that own flexibility. But it was complete fear. fear of the unknown. But that's why I said collaborating and teaming up with someone, if you can find someone like that, is just a great way to start. And we were business partners for 4 years, and then he was kind of slowing down, and I wanted to do more. So then I officially just went on my own, and we developed the single tenant net lease deals, which are Walgreens, Chase, McDonald's type development. But it was the best decision. I think, like you said, women have the fear of doing things, but once they jump in, life is too short.
Yes.
And then
just to stick in a job that you don't like, you're not appreciated, and you're just not making a lot of money. And we always talk about, Kelsey and I talk about, transitioning. Like, you don't want to just jump in and quit your daytime job. But there's steps that you can take that you can transition and create additional sources of income, so you're not just relying, and then you eventually move out of that. So, if you're fortunate enough to have someone that supports you, but if not, then, it does become fearful. There's a lot of realtor, women, but people who actually invest is only about like 32% of in the entire country. But when women invest in real estate, they're 50% more successful than their male counterparts. So if you can get over the hump, and I think, too, that there's a lot of women that are very successful in business, but they don't give themselves enough credit. Because I think we're good at, we have the empathy, but we have, I don't know, it seems like our brains are wired better for more complicated situations. What do you think?
I think so. I think I was mentioning the event I went couple weeks ago with Beth Azor. She's on a mission. I'm on a mission. You're on a mission. The three of us I know, and we're on a mission to help other women invest in either residential or commercial real estate. So the event I attended a couple weeks ago I was like pumped up and motivated to see what these other women are doing, investing and developing around the country, and the action that they're taking.
Yes.
The biggest thing I get all the time is, Pam, I would love to invest. I know you get this too, but I have no money.
Yes. And let's talk about that.
Yeah. And I always tell them, or, show them or teach them on, the deal is the hard part. The money part is the easiest part. If you had a project, I could go out right now with that group of women and raise money. I could post it on LinkedIn and raise money.
Yep. Because if it's that, I always say the same thing. The deal is the hardest thing to find, right? But the money will follow if you do the deal. Because that's a lot of people, they'll say, well, I want to wholesale deals. I want to get into wholesaling, and you can commercial wholesale. But the thing is, if you're that good of a negotiator that you got that property down a certain level that you can wholesale it to make X dollars, then you need to keep it, right? Because it'll make you more money in the long run. So I'm always amazed when I talk to people that they don't have any money, and they'll say, well, I want to learn how to wholesale. Because then I say, well, if you're good enough to get that, because you have to have extremely good negotiation skills to be a wholesaler, to be a successful one. And I'm like, well, if you're that good at negotiating, then why wouldn't you, I don't know, do all the other things that you could do? And then they'll come back and say, because I don't have any money. And that seems to be that. And you do have to have some money, right, or at least access to money, right? Because I've told people, well, they'll say, well, I have no money. I have no way to get money. I'm like, well, then it's going to be hard. You could do it, but it's very hard. Because I think also women have to realize they have a lot of value. Just like you said, the show me, because I love that. Because when I go out, if I have a deal and I need to raise money, I show them how much money they could make if they loan me the money. And it's,
right,
you can do it in a spreadsheet. There's there's Gamma. There's all kinds of AI tools now that can help you, where when you and I were starting out, it's like, okay, we had to kind of map it out and sketch it out, right? So
drive to the property, show them all that.
Well, Pam, I want to talk about some of the books that you've written here, and why did you write them? Can you share with us? You got 3 books here, so.
I know. I had the opportunity to meet, Zig Ziglar.
Yes.
And he came up to me and he said, have you written a book? And I'm like, no, but I need to. And he said, that will give you the most credibility over anything. So I figured I had to listen to Mr. Ziglar.
Yes.
And so
yes.
I wrote my first book, and it's 1 Cent Lemonade to $1 million deals and 25 jobs and 25 lessons I wish I learned sooner. And I had the nice endorsement by Barbara Corcoran. That's a whole nother story.
And if you follow Pam on Instagram, you'll find pictures of her with her, Dolly Parton, Tanya, because you do a
Jenny
big, well,
Tucker.
we can talk about that if you like. And then you got a couple other ones there too.
Yeah, so I really just wanted to share, from my first lemonade stand to detasseling corn to be working as an assistant casting director on the TV show Melrose Place, learned about rejection. So I take all those jobs and just kind of highlight what I learned, to help other people on that. And then the next one we did was Winning Ways in Commercial Real Estate. 18 successful women just unveil what they learned. And if you want to get started in commercial real estate, a lot of people want to go from residential to commercial. So this is a really good book of how a lot of my good friends in the business that I think
how
are
they
top,
transitioned. Again,
right,
you can be in one field, right? You can be a real estate agent, right? A real estate investor, but you want to transition into being a commercial investor, a commercial developer, right? And so that's I love that. Then that you took all of the experience of all those women and put it in the book, right?
It's exactly right. How they transition. They may have, like I have a degree in interior design, but I still use that today. And then a lot of them, accountants in the medical field and how they made a transition into being the top real estate manager for some of these national companies, to being an architect for commercial real estate. I don't think people realize all of the different, fields you can go to in commercial real estate besides investing or being a real estate manager. So that's what that book's about. And then Blaze Your Own Trail. I asked 20 leaders all the same questions about their, about the industry, 15 questions. And it's interesting to see how a lot of them answer it differently, but the same.
The same question, right? Okay, I think that's very cool.
So if you ever want to write a book, reach out to me. But like this book, I came up with it a couple years ago in January. And I sent out an email blast. Who wants to be in my book? You have until February to write your chapter with these questions. March, we're editing it. April, we launched it. And it became a bestseller.
Oh, yay.
So don't dwell on thinking, I got to take like years to write a book. I can guarantee if we could do it in
so
4
we
months.
wrote it.
So.
We just did another book. So we did my Winning Deals and Heels. It's on women who got into real estate investing. So my story, and I did the same exact thing. I reached out to people. I said, okay, I want to know your story. So it's about same questions, and then how'd they get in it. And the one thing that was very interesting on all of us, there's 10 of us in the book, we all had a mentor. That's how everyone, everyone had a different job. They had kids, but that was the same. And then we also said if we were going to transition, that we had to look at the things in our lives that were taking time away from us doing things like housework. I hate housework. But, and if you can't afford, and I always say to women, if you can't afford someone to come in and clean your house, maybe they can once a month, because think about how much money could you make if it takes 2 or 3 hours to clean your house and you're paying, I don't know, the going rate's probably about $150 maybe, give or take. So what is that? $50 an hour. What could you do in those 3 hours to make up that money? So not that you can't afford it, but what would you need to do to record it? But the Transition Advantage, I actually self-published that. I took all of the things that I've learned, so similar. You can see it's like skinny. And I'm like, I just put it together and said, okay, if you want to invest in the single family field, this is how you transition. You don't quit your job, and so, but same thing. I love books because I use it as a calling card. You go to a meeting and you're like, oh, here, I have a gift for you or whatever. And it just gives you credibility, which opens a whole lot of doors, right? Yeah, so.
Definitely opens up a lot of books, and it's fun.
Well, tell us okay, so I'm curious, how did you get Barbara Corcoran, and she's the big real estate guru lady, how did you get her to write your foreword?
So I always wanted, I go back always wanting to have the top people, and I just always love watching her and watching her career and her story. So I just got on her website and it said, contact me and why you'd want to meet. And I filled it out, and her assistant reached out to me, and she said she would do it, and I flew to New York City.
She is someone that gives value, and so sometimes you have to pay for that, right? But you had a vision about how it could help you down the road. So
it was a one-on-one for 1 hour meeting that we set up. I flew up to meet her, and it ended up being a 2-hour meeting. So that's what you have to take action and ask.
Yes. Now, for our listeners, tell them from your perspective what they should do in the next 30 days to help them transition into something that they want to do.
If you want to be a real estate investor, you just put Pam Goodwin, real estate investor, phone number. Every time you go to that gas station, you meet someone, you let them know you're a real estate investor looking for deals.
Okay. I'm going to piggyback on that because you could also go to Canva. We're both saying the same thing. It's like, just start getting your name out there and start taking action, and it'll make them feel better.
And the other thing I would say is, go on social media, follow the top people, reach out to their DM. If they're speaking at an event, go to the event, go early. I always, if you're doing any kind of networking or event, always be the first one there, because that's where you meet all of the speakers. They'll invite you to sit at the front, sit in the front of the room, get to know those people one-on-one, really, because I don't care what business you're in, it's all about relationships.
It is. And so there's some really powerful women in Washington, D.C. And Linda is from here, correct? Isn't she from? No. Okay.
But I did an event with them. I was on their board. So
okay.
I know both of them. I'm graciously knowing them, personally.
Yeah, and we're throwing it out there because you and I were at that same event, and it didn't have anything to do with what we do. But it's kind of one of those things that you want to show that you're involved as well. And you were sitting down in front. I was sitting up. And it wasn't a huge, but there was a lot of people there. And I was like, and I messaged, was like, oh, hey, I saw you at the event, Right. But yeah, I think you have to get out. And one of the things my husband and I do is about once a quarter, we'll go to galas, just that support some kind of nonprofit. Because one, it's tax deductible. 2, you're supporting, you get to go out, whatnot. And that you can find all kinds of events to attend that show support in the community. Because if you're trying to make a breakthrough in a transition, you kind of have to be more than just, whatever current job you're in, I think. So what do you think about that?
I love that idea. That's how I wanted to give back to my community. And so I went on our website, city website, and applied to be on the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Yes.
And then ended up being on it for 6 years in the chair. And it was a great way to give back to the community. And then, we do I'm passionate since I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019. We do Kiss Breast Cancer Goodbye organization to raise money to end breast cancer. So,
and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So, because that was a big transition as well.
Right.
I mean, health scare, affecting your business. So congrats to you.
Thank you so much. I just posted, yesterday on LinkedIn. I was always so busy about my career, working hard, trying to find the next achievement. And once you're diagnosed with something like that changes your life, I'm all about fulfillment. So I'm all about fulfillment and doing that Kiss Breast Cancer Goodbye. I ended up collaborating with a complete stranger that I met on Instagram, that I reached out to her on something completely different. And then we bonded and I went out to Nashville.
And that's become a huge event now, a huge
right.
fundraiser. So, well, Pam, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Best way is to send me an email, info@pamgoodwin.com. Go to my website, pamgoodwin.com.
And you have a YouTube channel as well. Gaston?
That's right.
All
and
right.
I got to tell you one quick funny story. Because every time you Google Pam Goodwin, this Pam Godwin pops up. And so when I tell him I'm an author, she's an author, except
she's not that kind.
She has erotica stuff on it. It's
okay,
so
I'm good.
Funny. Thank you so much for having me. I loved being your first in-person guest.
Thank you.
Honor.
And she was very patient with us getting all set up and everything this morning. So thanks so much, Pam.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon. All right. Take care. Hey, give us a follow. Drop some comments. I'm Nancy. Kelsey was out today. She's behind the scenes. So thanks again for following us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.